New at 11 on KGW News, a closer look at the flashpoint that's put Portland under a microscope.
KGW investigates who are the federal officers facing off with protesters at the ICE building, and what kind of authority do they have?
And how a local glass artist is rebuilding his dream after fire destroyed his studio.
The first day I was like, well, that's it, it's over.
The Portland Trail Blazers return to KGW's airways. We'll have all the action at the Moda Center.
And from the court to the courtroom. What's next for Coach Chauncey Billups in the gambling scandal that rocked the NBA? But first, breaking news and two stabbings just blocks apart tonight in downtown Portland. This was the senior Southwest Jefferson and 11th. That's where police say a man walked into a business around 9 to report he had been stabbed. Authorities say he should be okay. Now, about 4 blocks away and a couple of hours earlier, another man was stabbed in the South Park blocks. He was taken to the hospital with serious injuries. It is unclear if the stabbings are connected. Police say they're looking into both and so far have not made any arrests. We, of course, will keep you posted. New tonight, a brand new KGW investigation into the people responsible for securing Portland's ICE building, the ones we've sometimes seen clashing with protesters. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Mulco. It turns out the boots on the ground and often on the rooftop are not ICE at all, but often come from little-known agencies, those with broad and sometimes controversial authority, and it appears without clearly defined limits. Here's investigative reporter Kyle Aboshi.
Streets filled with smoke, tear gas, and crowd control munitions. For months, there have been sporadic clashes between federal officers and protesters outside Portland's ICE facility. So what's going on here? Who are these officers? And have they crossed the line? Demonstrations against President Trump's immigration policies began in early June and have largely been peaceful. The protests have been focused here at the ICE facility in South Portland. It sits away from downtown in the South Waterfront neighborhood. The building is leased by the federal government and protected by the Department of Homeland Security, a job normally done by the Federal Protective Service. But on the ground, we've also seen teams of officers from other agencies called upon to support FPS in what's known as cross-designation. There have been specially trained units, including U.S. Border Patrol BORTAC, a special response team from ICE, along with officers from the Bureau of Prisons. Most nights follow a familiar pattern. Officers emerge from the front gate, then push out in a U-shape or wedge formation, clearing the way for vehicles to enter or exit the ICE building. Although protesters are sometimes antagonistic, video appears to show officers at times responding with disproportionate force. On October 2nd, Leilani Payne stood in front of officers on the street after they cleared the exit, allowing a car to leave the property. She complied, but after the 19-year-old shouted insults and swore at the officers, one of them blasted her with chemical spray in the face. Payne said she had trouble breathing, burning in her eyes, ears, and throat. In some instances, federal officers appeared to attack when there was no apparent threat. Videos show protesters who crossed the blue line marked U.S. Government Do Not Block were tackled by a team of officers. On August 13th, protester Darren Hertzberg was standing outside the driveway when a federal officer tackled him from behind. Smoke was deployed. Hertzberg said he was taken into custody and cited for failure to comply. Homeland Security policy allows officers to use force only when no reasonably effective, safe, and feasible alternative exists. And they can only use a level of force that is objectively reasonable. On several nights, the policy appeared to be tested. Officers blanketed the street with smoke and tear gas, used flashbangs, pepper balls, and other less than lethal munitions. Their actions often seemed to make the situation worse, instead of calming it down. On October 18th, a large crowd of peaceful protesters gathered outside the ICE facility following a No Kings rally. KGW zoomed in and slowed the video. It showed a federal officer, who fired a less than lethal round into the ground, ricocheting toward the ICE building. That triggered federal officers to deploy tear gas on the crowd. The intent of tear gas is dispersal, but misuse or abuse can cause injuries or inflame tensions even more. As of mid-November, federal court records indicate 36 people have been charged with crimes related to the ICE facility in Portland since June. Some of those cases involved assaults on federal officers, arson, and property damage. Federal law gives U.S. Homeland Security broad authority to protect federal buildings, with no clear limit on how far off-site officers can operate. For example, this video showed a team of federal officers walking away from the ICE building to make an arrest on September 30th. They marched down the street and out of camera view. At the same time, Homeland Security has used helicopters and drones to circle overhead, frustrating neighbors and inflaming tensions. The conflict over immigration policy and attempts by President Trump to deploy National Guard troops helped mobilize a new strategy among protesters: inflatable costumes. But even those in costume have faced off with federal officers. On October 2nd, Seth Todd said he was peacefully protesting in a frog suit when an officer aimed chemical spray directly at his costume's air vent. Protesters and local officials accused the federal government of abusing its authority. Similar complaints were made during the 2020 racial justice protests in Portland, which centered around the federal courthouse. A government audit found that many of those federal officers deployed to Portland in 2020 were not sufficiently trained or prepared for the operation. Many of the same border and security forces have returned to Portland, this time to protect the ICE building. The Federal Protective Service was created to protect public buildings. Now the question is, who's protecting the public? We shared some of the videos in the story with the Department of Homeland Security. In response, a spokesperson wrote, ICE and CBP are trained to use the minimum amount of force necessary to resolve dangerous situations to prioritize the safety of the public and themselves. The statement went on to say that officers use de-escalation tactics and receive ongoing use of force training. Kyle Aboshi, KGW News.
Well, by the way, if you have a story for our investigative team, you can email investigators@kgw.com or call our tip line. It's 503-226-5041. To get you caught up on tonight's other headlines now, both the House and Senate have now passed a bill that requires the Justice Department to release all unclassified case files related to the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Tonight, survivors who've been calling for this for years celebrated that vote and thanked lawmakers who stood with them.
We have not been heard for so long, and I think the power of being heard and being recognized and being validated is incredibly healing.
President Trump says he plans to sign the bill, a 180 for the White House, after months of calling the Epstein files a Democrat-created hoax. In Salem, the ATF seized 4 machine guns and 11 other firearms as part of a sting to bust members of the Sereno Street gang. Authorities say undercover agents arranged to buy the guns, then arrested 2 Portland men along with one from Salem. Investigators say they also confiscated dozens of devices meant to convert guns to machine guns, along with some cocaine. A teenager is among the latest murder victims in the Rose City. The shooting Sunday near Southeast 125th and Division killed 14-year-old Merrick Roscoe and wounded 2 other teens. Here is Police Chief Bob Day.
It appears that people knew each other. As we said, it's not random, so there does seem to be some awareness of people involved.
Today, officers also revealed they have identified some of the suspects, though are not releasing names, at least not publicly. Since 2023, 5 minors have died from this type of violence in the city, and authorities say they have been working with community partners to prevent retaliation and other factors that can drive up these numbers. And just in tonight, Gresham police are looking for this puppy they say was taken in a robbery. Her owner reports being attacked by 4 strangers around 10:30 last night on West Powell near Main City Park. He says the suspects, 3 men and a woman, then put the 9-month-old German Shepherd mix named Shayla into a white Chevy Tahoe or a similar vehicle and took off. If you know where the dog or the suspects are, please call Gresham Police. To a live look over downtown Portland now, what's turning out to be a fairly chilly Tuesday night. I bet we have had it so good for so long, it seems like now it's really feeling like November.
Yeah, it's been a pretty warm start to the month, but it is cooling off. We had our coldest morning of the fall, really. Not this morning, but yesterday morning we dropped to 36. Right now, Portland, you can see fog is forming over downtown, so that's another concern. 42 in Portland right now, so not that cold. But look at Salem, fog forming in the distance there, but already down to 35 degrees in Salem. So it is a cold night already, and visibility has dropped to 1/4 mile in Aurora, 1/4 mile in Scappoose, 3 miles in Salem. So again, fog forming in the western valleys, as you can see, and temperatures are dropping as well, as we mentioned. Here's some other readings for you. 37 in Hillsborough. It's 42 in Troutdale. Haven't seen the east wind pick up yet, but it will overnight tonight. And check out Eugene, already below freezing. 36 in Corvallis, and I mentioned the 35 in Salem. So it is chilly. We'll have areas of fog forming overnight tonight. Showers late Wednesday, but other than that, a lot of dry weather still in the forecast, David.
Going to make a lot of folks happy with that. Thanks, Matt. New tonight, a local artist is working to rebuild his studio and his dream after this fire, apparently caused by a violent chain reaction involving a lithium battery, destroyed it. Catherine Cook has his story.
It's a little pop of art that you can put on a windowsill.
Artist Gary Bodker
Yeah, I'm a positive person.
sees life a certain way,
The glass is half full.
even after his glass studio in Oregon City burned to the ground.
Shoot us the whole shop.
It happened last month. Investigators told Gary the cause was a lithium battery used for power tools.
And it was just a chain reaction. Like this is the glass that survived, but it hasn't been cleaned yet.
He figured that was the end of Gary Bodker Designs, a business he spent 20 years building, blowing handcrafted glassware and decor.
That feeling you can't get from a cup at IKEA.
Gary says business had really peaked when they moved into the studio last summer. They were only there for 2 months before the fire. He says the timing couldn't have been worse.
And I do wholesale, so all the stores want their stuff October 21st to November 15th, and the shop burns down October 22nd, right? Gary's
renting space now. His 5-person team is down to 2, and production just 20% of where it was. But he's grateful for continued business and for those who've donated equipment and money to help him rebuild.
People that I've never met, $30 here, $15 there, and I'm like, what? I mean, you never expect that kind of support.
Despite one fire, another still burns for the future, with glasses
that happened, right? But
always half full.
Tomorrow hasn't.
Up next, Gary's heading to Seattle to pick up equipment that an artist up there donated to him. He hopes to get everything hooked up in time to fill orders for the holidays. I have to say, David, while looking at Gary's work, I instantly recognized it from shops around Portland. And it reminded me of why so many people shop local, because of the people they're supporting.
Yeah, it's all about that personal connection, and we can all do our part. Thanks, Catherine. Appreciate it. Developing tonight, police in Hood River are still trying to find the driver who hit a child in a crosswalk. A warning, we're about to show you the full video. It is hard to watch, but know that the child walked away with only minor injuries. Okay, this happened Sunday afternoon in Hood River along Cascade Avenue. That's the main highway near 20th Street. 6-year-old, there it is, DeAndre, was walking with his 10-year-old brother and a family friend and in the crosswalk at the time while police say the driver stopped to see if the boys were okay. They are again. They left without exchanging details with a group or calling police.